Eddie, it's the Monday after an historic event at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on Saturday. On the event, first of all, reflecting on it, just how special was it for you?
Amazing. I mean, always mixed emotions when you suffer a defeat, if you like, or of a team member, a friend. But you also get to look back with very fond memories about what we put together, the spectacle. Just looking at those photos and the ring walk and just seeing people back together was so great for boxing and sport. So very proud of the team here at Matchroom and everyone that helped create a phenomenal event. Wish we would have won, but that's sport, that's boxing, and on we go. But certainly another iconic moment for the sport, and now we move forward with that. I think sometimes people forget that it was only 2 weeks ago we did 20,000 in Leeds for Josh Warrington. It's only in 2 weeks' time we sold out nearly 10,000 in Liverpool. So we're flying at the moment. Tickets are flying. People are back in love with boxing, and that's great news. Like I said, just wish we would have got the win. It would have been the icing on the cake, but we move forward, and boxing's in a great place.
As far as performances go, Oleksandr Usyk, does the word masterclass sum up what we saw on Saturday?
Yeah, it was. He's an unbelievable boxer. I mean, look, AJ, I don't think boxed great. I don't think the game plan was great at all, but you can't take away the brilliance of Oleksandr Usyk, and maybe some of that inability to execute a game plan was because of that brilliance. We knew what we were taking on, and it still baffles me that people, want to give AJ stick after taking on the challenge of a pound for pound great. He's brilliant, Usyk, but there's certain ways to beat him, and there's certain ways not to, and the latter is what AJ attempted to do on Saturday, and he regrets that. He's devastated. But Usyk deserves all the praise, all the credit. He's the unified heavyweight world champion, former undisputed cruiserweight world champion. He's probably pound for pound number 2. Some may argue number 1, but that's what you got beaten by. So although you got it wrong, you shouldn't be too disheartened. 1, because you took on the challenge, and 2, because you went in there and competed with him, but got beat.
You touched on AJ's approach there. I think we all thought heading into the fight he would use his natural advantages and his size and power to hurt Usyk. Maybe showed too much respect. Were you surprised the way he fought the way he did?
He definitely got it wrong. I mean, he knows he got it wrong. But again, sometimes it's easy to say, yeah, AJ, what you've got to do is you've got to go in, you've got to bulldoze him. When you're fighting someone with great feet and great movement and great feints, sometimes that's hard to do. My fear was that he would try and outbox Usyk and he would try and outskill him. That's what he tried to do. He wanted to do that. He wanted to box with him. He felt he could outbox him, even though he was probably told he couldn't. Maybe that was a problem, that he was told he couldn't. And he regrets that, of course, and he'll make fundamental changes in the second fight. But yeah, I think, common sense, if you like, would say, you're the bigger man, you punch harder, you've got to put the pressure on, you've got to throw combinations, you've got to back him up. But he didn't, and because of that reason, he was not victorious on Saturday.
Going back to the Ruiz loss, there was so much speculation around AJ, whether he was okay, something wrong behind the scenes. This time round, not those questions, maybe just a question of he was a bit too relaxed, would you say?
I don't know, everything was fine. He'd had a good camp, niggles, but it's very unusual not to have a niggle in camp. So no excuses. He was ready for the fight. He was relaxed, but that's AJ. He just got it wrong. Honestly, he got it wrong against a brilliant boxer, and I think, the Ruiz defeat was so much different because, and even people in here coming up to me today saying, "Are you okay?" Like, I'm okay. And the reason I'm okay is because you lost to a great fighter. The Ruiz defeat was just one from the wildness that just knocked everyone for 6. We knew this was a possibility if he didn't get it right, and he didn't get it right, and he got beat. So he has learned a lot from this defeat. He will be making a lot of changes, and he will need to defeat him again.
The rematch is, of course, on everyone's lips. AJ's made it clear he wants it. When do you believe we can expect news on that, the talks of the fight and where it may take place?
I think you're looking probably like February, March of next year. No big injuries to AJ. and obviously Usyk had a terrible cut. He wanted to spend some time with his family. So that's really where all the eyes are now. You know, spoke to AJ for an hour this morning. He's just on a mission, you know, and he knows that he didn't fight to the best of his ability. He's desperate to reclaim his belts. He's, like I said, he's going to make changes in camp to how he approaches everything. He said something at the press conference. He says, "I'm a fast learner," you know, and through the Ruiz defeat, he adapted a style to beat Andy Ruiz. It was a perfect game plan, perfect execution. He's going to have to get it perfectly right this time as well. He can do it. Honestly, write him off at your peril. It's unbelievable. People messaging me saying, "I think he should retire." You know, he's 30 years old. He's still learning. He got beat by a pound for pound great. Just chill out, you know. He couldn't have boxed much worse and lost 8-4 or whatever it was. So there's so many improvements to make. And the good thing is, he's hurting real bad. Whether he wants to go to a press conference or do an interview with you and tell you, it's okay, you win some, you lose some, it's killing him inside. And you need that hunger to drive you forward for the rematch. And that's what's going to make him put the hard work in. You know, while Usyk now does his tour around Ukraine and everywhere else he'll go to parade his belts, AJ will be doing the same thing he'll be doing, or he did for the Ruiz rematch, while Andy was out doing the same thing. He's hurting like mad. He sees the criticism. He sees, you know, the switching people, which is just what you expect from British fight fans, and you know, you have to roll with that. That's what happens when you're at the top of the tree. But use that as inspiration to come back stronger.
Dillian Whyte mentioned how he feels the dog may have left AJ a little bit over time. Would you disagree with that and maybe just say that he's maybe caught between styles at the moment?
I agree with the latter. I don't think, you know, he's hungrier than ever. He dedicates every second of the day to boxing. There's no lack of hunger. But I do believe that, yeah, he was caught in a little bit of styles for that fight. On one hand, people are telling him, you've got to go in, the old AJ, steamroll him, combination punches, back him up, brutalise him, bully him. And then on the other hand, he wants to improve as a fighter. He wants to show his ability with his feet and his jab and his feints, but not against Usyk. Wrong place, wrong time, you know, and he knows that. But he's a much more all-rounded fighter than he used to be. He doesn't just rely on power and, you know, opening up in the first 3 or 4 rounds and hoping to get his opponent out there. But he needs to revert to a style like that to beat Oleksandr Usyk, because as I said to him today, I believe the AJ that boxed Klitschko, although the current AJ is a much better fighter, that AJ most likely would have beaten Oleksandr Usyk on Saturday. We'll never know, but he's going to be a different animal in the rematch, and I believe he can win it.
Looking down the card, it was a straightforward win for Lawrence Okolie against his mandatory. He told us post-fight he wants Breedis next. Is that straightforward unification?
I mean, the unification's a must. I mean, Breedis fights on October 16th. He's looking for a big money fight. Okolie is probably the biggest money fight in the division right now, you know, as a fight. You've got Gulamarin, the WBA champion. You've got Makabu, the WBC champion. I don't really mind. You know, I would like him. I'd prefer him to go into the Breidis fight with a couple of belts and then to try and get an undisputed fight. But the plan with Lawrence is really to unify and then move up to heavyweight. I would like him to try and be undisputed at cruiserweight. His next fight will 100% be a unification fight. He's an absolute disaster to fight, horrible. And I don't believe any of those 3 can beat him. But we'll see, because he hasn't boxed at that level yet either. You know, Glavatsky was a good win at the back end of his career. The mandatory on Saturday was straightforward. You know, he wasn't an elite level cruiserweight, but he dealt with him in brilliant style. And I just think he's going to go through the whole division like a knife through butter. And he's going to be a real danger at heavyweight as well. So good performance, great to see him walk out in that kind of occasion, that kind of crowd. And the future's massive for Lawrence Okolie.
Campbell Hand got the nod in a very tough fight with Sonny Martinez. What were your thoughts on that decision?
I thought he was very lucky to get the win, to be honest with you. I mean, I could see a draw, most people can't, but I spoke to him earlier today and I said, you know, people, you know, you see it with AJ as well, and I don't want to criticise fight fans, but my God, did they jump on your back like that? I mean, I say poor old Campbell. I mean, someone said, I feel sorry for Campbell Hatton, but at the same time, don't feel sorry for Campbell Hatton. because he's getting unbelievable opportunities. But he is getting those opportunities well before his time and well before his ability should be getting those opportunities. I actually wanted him earlier on the card on Saturday, but the broadcaster, Sky, wanted him later in the card. Maybe we should have disapproved that and brought him earlier, but it is what it is. I said to him today, Campbell, some people are saying that you should go on small non-TV cards and learn your trade. I said, if that's how you feel, fine, but I don't agree with it. And he said, I don't agree with it either. He said, I just didn't box well. But it's hard to produce good performances in that kind of environment. So I said to him, I kind of feel like you should come out and say, all right, if you felt I lost that fight or you felt it was close, I'll rematch the kid and I'll run it back and people will give him the respect for doing so. And I think that's what he'll do. So I said, look, just take the week. He's upset as well. You know, it's hard. Different with AJ. He'll see the criticism. He's been there before off the back of the Reece fight. But really difficult for Campbell to sort of accept. It's not his fault. You know, if you felt that he lost the fight, if he would have lost the fight, it's not up to him. He gave it his best. He didn't perform very well, but he's going to have to be much better because, you know, the kiddie box was decent enough, but he's got to be beating people like that if he wants to progress on this stage. So good, hard-working kid. He's got Matthew Hatton around him. He's got Ricky around him. They'll get on top of him, but he must improve. And I think he should fight that guy again.
Do you think perhaps the slots he's having on these huge cards is playing into what he describes as not showing his best work? Do you feel we could see maybe some changes in the future in that respect?
I mean, you know, you want to give everybody the best opportunities. He's getting those slots because he's Ricky Hatton's son. Conor Benn got those slots because he was Nigel Benn's son. But if you sit down with Conor Benn and say, those experiences you had, you know, in your first 7 or 8 fights when you really didn't have a clue what you were doing, how much has that given you the grounding and the experience to where you are now? And he would say, that was priceless for me, priceless. So I'm hoping that it develops Campbell in the right way. Again, the moment that him or Ricky or someone says, I think we need to just, you know, go off air but that's not the answer. You know, you've got to be good enough. You've got to have the composure to deal with these nights, but it's difficult when you don't have the experience. But it's tough. That's the game you're in. So I think carry on. Like I said, I felt that he was a bit too far up the card on Saturday, but you know, people want to watch him. People like, and now even more so because of the vulnerability. But it's going to be tough for him. But he can do a lot better than that. He boxes. You know, we see it in sparring, seen it in the gym. Matthew Hatton says, look, we're not seeing 50% of where he should be right now. So take that experience on board from Saturday and improve.
Our immediate thoughts are obviously with Lenny Castillo after Saturday night. We're very happy to hear that he's okay. It's a frightening knockout by Callum Smith and a huge statement by him.
Yeah, one of the worst, scariest one-punch knockouts I've ever seen. And obviously everyone was extremely concerned for Lenny Castillo. I would like to say, well done to the British Boxing Board of Control. I promote shows all around the world. Some commissions still to this day don't even have oxygen available to fighters immediately at ringside. The board were in the ring within 10 seconds with oxygen on, paramedics around him, doctors around him, on the stretcher, out straight back to the change room. He was responsive. He went to the hospital. He had scans. He was fully checked, and thank God he was released back to the hotel. So that was tremendous news. You know, disappointing that sometimes when that happens, you never really get a chance to celebrate the victory, or even you don't even really want to talk about the victory. But thankfully he's okay, and we can now talk about the devastating performance from Callum Smith. I mean, for a long time, him making 12 stone was a freak of nature. And even like, you know, he even would have had to make 12-7. I mean, I don't think it was easy for him, but he looked good at the weigh-in. He looked solid. He looked fresh. He looked spiteful. Great trainer now in Buddy McGirt. And I tell you, Callum Smith's going to be a real threat at 175. People talk about the domestic fights. You know, he deserves to be above that level now in terms of where he's boxed and what he's achieved. I love the Joe Smith fight. You've got Dimitri Bivol there. You've got Beterbiev, tough fight. But I tell you, Callum Smith could be a favourite going in with any of those guys. And our job now will be to try and secure him a world title shot.
Florian Marku, he handed Maxim Prodem his first defeat. Did you have Marku winning, and what was your thought on that 99?
Oh, I mean, you talk about Lenin Castillo having to see a doctor after. I think, you know, that Italian judge should have had to see a doctor. You know, it's funny because you got Chris Kirchi and Salvatore Churchi, our Italian partners on my left. They represent Prodem. Obviously, I represent Marku. And they're, you know, and at the end of the fight, they said, he's won, Prodem's won. I said, he hasn't. I said, in my opinion, Florian won the round by 2 rounds. It was a fight by 2 rounds, maybe a round if you're going to be. But no. And when that score come in from the Italian judge, that's giving Florian Marku 1 round. 1 round. I couldn't believe it. And Florian boxed well. Florian's still learning. He's a novice is a harsh word, but he's still learning. That was a good 10 rounds for him in the bank. And, you know, there's a lot of exciting fights out there for Florian Marku. And listen, a good performance from Prodem. He doesn't lose anything. He comes back, he returns, he'll be on our Italian shows. Good fighter, but a good solid win and a great learning fight for Florian Marku.
Looking at the AJ cards through 8 rounds, that Hatton decision, and then the polar opposite split in the Prodem Marku fight, who do you feel is causing these differences in opinion right now? In
terms of the scoring? I mean, I just think it's too much inconsistency. I think sometimes when you talk about people want a neutral panel of judges, the British Boxing Board of Control will always insist on 1 British judge. So therefore, the only way you can have a neutral panel is to bring in a home judge from the other fighter's country. But is a neutral panel really a British judge, an Italian judge and a neutral judge? Or is a neutral panel 3 neutral judges? I mean, probably the latter. So there's just too much inconsistency in scorecards. You know, I think 1 card had Florian Marku winning by 4 rounds, and 1, the Italian, had him winning by 9 rounds, right? That's a 13-round swing in a 10-round fight. How is that even possible? So yeah, I would like to see the IBF look at that card, and you know, we saw recently, I think, a judge come out and actually make a statement after a fight and say, I got it wrong. I've watched it back and I got it wrong.
A video surfaced on social media over the weekend showing a short altercation between you and a fan. You've got to ask this. Can you shed any light on?
No, it wasn't a good time. It wasn't a good time. I just, you know, I spend a lot of the night going up and down, meeting fans, taking pictures, you know, trying to, and it's just, I just walked past this group of people and they went, Eddie. And as I walked past, one of them called me a pussy. Bad timing, bad time. I shouldn't have been, I apologise, but you can't expect just to, you know, doing it on a keyboard's one thing, but doing it to someone's face is something different. So yeah, I shouldn't really have bit, but at the time I was probably willing to run for about 12 walls. But it is what it is.
Looking ahead and rolling on to the next one, Milan this Friday, live on DAZN. Scardina back in action.
Yeah, really good card actually. Tough fight for Daniel Scardina. There's a really good fight between Patera and Boshiera. Other great fights on the card, of course, Reshat Mati. Back, talk about Albanians. You know, he's another one with a huge fan base. And of course, Sandy Ryan as well, back. So good card in Milan this Friday, but really, it's all eyes on next Saturday. Smith Fowler in Liverpool. Cheeseman against Metcalf, Conway against Metcalf, Cheeseman against Williamson, Shannon Courtney defending her world title against America's Jamie Mitchell. Brilliant fight on the card as well between Solomon Dakers and Sokolowski. You got Luke Willis against Ryland Charlton. It's probably the best card, top to bottom, we've ever put on. So, like I said, it was hard getting out of bed this morning, but we moved forward after an amazing show, with huge shows coming up. Obviously Milan on Friday, Liverpool on Saturday, and then Mikey Garcia the week after, and of course Dillian White finishing off the month in a brilliant fight against Otto Wilder. I mean, we're seeing some great heavyweight fights at the moment. That's another one at the O2, so on we go.
Talk to us a little bit about Fresno and that Garcia Martin fight, and tell us why people should be excited for that, and also Ryan Sandor.
I think I had a few arguments with a couple of members of the US media about that fight, and actually it surprised me, because when you're talking about, yeah, it's a comeback fight for Mikey Garcia. He's been out for nearly 2 years by the time that fight comes around. And Sandor Martin is top 10 or top around that of virtually every governing body. He's European champion. He's in a good run of form. He's very confident. He's technically very sound. I think it's great. You know, I would rather give an opportunity to one of our fighters, obviously as well from the Spanish market. He's going to be doing big numbers on DAZN in Spain. It's a good competitive fight that I know is everything to Sandor Martin. But Mikey Garcia is a 4-weight world champion. Could be a Hall of Famer. And I expect him to give Sandor a very, very tough night's work as well. 2 really good World Championship fights on that card as well. Jesse Rodriguez against Bermudez and Elwin Soto against Gonzalez in a really good fight as well. So a big card, big night in Fresno. And then of course, just finalising all the other details for the full card on the 30th. And Dillian Whyte is in it, especially now with the Joshua defeat, because obviously the pressure now is on the WBC to order the winner of that fight, Fury against Wilder, as they must fight Dillian Whyte next. And if he can beat Otto Wallin, I think he's going to end up forcing his mandatory and getting that shot.
Talk to us a little bit about that fight against Otto Wallin. We don't think it's going to be as straightforward though, as he's an awkward southpaw.
Oh, there you go, yeah. I mean, we've just seen, you know, how difficult it is to beat an awkward southpaw. Wallin is more flat-footed than Usyk, punches harder as well, and he's much, much bigger. But it's a really tricky fight, and I think Dillian, you know, probably good timing with the AJ defeat in the sense that Dillian will go at Otto Wallin from the first bell. He'll try and chop him down, break him. I mean, Otto Wallin, when Tyson Fury boxed him, I thought, what is this fight? You know, this guy has never beaten anybody. Should have beaten Tyson Fury that night. That should have been stopped. He didn't, but he gave Fury everything. Come back with good wins against Kaufman, against Brazil, and no one wants to fight him. So big respect to Dillian Whyte. It's going to be a massive card